everybody. Super excited to be here. So real quick, just to let you know what's going on. Most of the time when people see me on my YouTube channel, it's about machine quilting. But we're on here for something a little different. See, I'm Angela, this is Joni, and we do our Build A Quilt, which is our block of the month. And we're doing a little trunk show to show our Build A Quilters who are here live, kind of the progression of Build A Quilt over the years. So even if you're watching and you're not in Build A Quilt, hopefully you'll just like to look at some pretty quilts. But for those of you that are here, what's kind of fun is to look back and think how much this has changed. So this is our 8th year of doing our block of the month. And it has definitely progressed over the years. So Joni kind of pulled out some of the quilts over the years, and we're going to take a trip down memory lane. But first, like, how did Build A Quilt come along? Like, who had this great idea to do such a block of the month?
I don't know, who was that?
Oh, it was Joni.
I said, please, can we do this?
And you know what? A lot of the fun stuff has come from Joni's ideas. What's great is she said, Angela, I want to do a block of the month. Now, one thing you need to know is, like, even though I've been a quilter, I've not been a part of a lot of guilds, and I'm like, okay, what's a block of the month? So she was telling me about it, and I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. So she made the very first block. This was the very first Build A Quilt. Now, me not understanding how this really worked, she said, you need to write a pattern for some blocks, and then we made the layout. Well, she made this out of fabric that we had at the shop, and I thought, okay, well, if we're going to do a block of the month at the shop, let's do it online, right? Might as well. So, okay, so we put it online, and it sold quite a few.
Wow.
And we were really kind of like, uh-oh, we don't have enough fabric, because this is just fabric you found around the shop. So we ended up finding some other colorways. So the reason that Build A Quilt has 3 different colorways is because this one, there wasn't enough. So then we made a second option, which ran out. So we made a third option, which I said, let's do solids, so no matter what, we won't run out.
We originally were hoping if we got 50 people, we were so excited. Right. And it was like more like 250.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Wow.
So we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, now Joni's now got herself a job. Right?
Yeah.
So then she was saying, well, you sell, you get the block by the month, and then you sell the finishing kit at the end. And I said, well, why do we have to wait to the end? Let's just sell it during. And so then she's like, okay, whatever. So then we're like, well, there's 3 colorways. Let's do 3 layout options. Okay, not really probably my smartest idea, but we've always kind of stuck with that. So we always have the 10 blocks in 3 color options with 3 different layouts. And if you want to show the blocks,
Yeah, so we wanted to call it more like a Build A Quilt on steroids.
Right.
Because a lot of times you only get one option, and I think everybody should have lots of choices. I'm not into just one choice.
Right.
So these were another one of the choices. Some of you see behind here. This was another one that we pulled out of our, something that we had at the shop.
Yeah, we just had some extra
I
fabric.
think this is called Midnight
Garden. And
Yes.
it took me several years to not have PTSD when I looked at these, right? Because we've got so much fabric for these.
Yes, and this is in the time when we first started doing this, we had to use yardage. And I cut every little piece, and I'll show you how to do what I mean by that here in just a minute.
So at that
That's one
point,
of them.
I realized, like, okay, if I put 4 different colors of fabric in here, that's 4 different cuts she needs to make. You kind of learn as you go through it. So then I'm like, oh, maybe we just do less or whatever. So we made it through that first year, made the quilts, and lots of fun. This one was the least favorite of everybody's, by the way. I think those.
I love it.
But that's like a what, an inch and a half finish.
Oh, yeah,
that's
right.
right?
Yeah, that would be rough.
So we kind of got lots of feedback on that. That's too hard to run.
Quilters will tell you what they want, right?
Yeah, so year 2.
Year 2, we like, well, we should do this again.
Yeah,
Okay.
might as well.
Well, what's fun is, the more you do anything, the better you get. And I don't even know where you found these patterns. So this would have been, how many, 6 years
before
ago?
This was first.
Oh, well, I was just trying to show the pattern.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the patterns were like when I first started writing them. So they're pretty basic, which they're fine. But it's funny because you look at these now and you see what I can do now. So it's like the more you do, the better you get. But look, Joni would cut all these little pieces.
Wow.
All of them.
Wow. Oh, so a lot of.
I took it home to my basement, and oh my gosh, the dust.
Yes. You should have seen her muscles after doing that. She was like Popeye.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were like, okay, let's do this again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the Build A Quilt that we jumped up to like 600 or something. That
Yes, yes.
And then we're like, oh, okay, well.
That was insane.
But I
anyway.
didn't really think through, like, okay, the 3 finishing kits and the 3 layouts, like, gosh, it's one thing to cut it for a couple hundred, but when you have this. So this was one of the options.
And at this point, we had to go to our fabric reps and order ahead of time.
Yes.
Right.
Because we didn't have a clue, we just had to guess. We just didn't know.
Right, like how much fabric do we need? Like, are they gonna have enough? We would pick out a collection and then find out that just because they have it on the website doesn't mean you can get it.
Right.
A lot of scrambling and
Oh,
angst,
Yeah,
but
we were angst.
there was angsting everywhere.
Yeah.
So this was the next year's Build a Quilt. Again, it's been really fun. I've grown as a quilter. I know making the patterns, and this really is a joint venture. She'll give me inspiration, I'll write the patterns, and then she vets them, and she comes back and says like, oh, you need to include cutting instructions. Or you need to include these things. But it's so good because, I don't know a lot of the piecing, and that's kind of her thing, so a lot of fun. So this
And
was,
then we put a Dresden in the middle of that in year 2, that was crazy. But
Yeah.
anyway, we did it.
and so that year we had, so then also picking out the 3 colors is a little bit of like, because the first one just evolved, right? It's like, well, we need some colors, what do we have in the
something, what do we
shop,
got?
right? And so then we're like, okay, we had to put a little more thought. So I just like, okay, we can have the blue and the grays. Let's do maybe this one, which I loved this one.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah.
This was Abbey Road,
Something, and rain, I don't know.
something, yeah. But then I'll give the colors a name. I can't remember what I called it, but so like this collection was just really cute.
It's the same layout, but it's just, we ended up making the same.
Yeah. So one of the benefits of having the finishing kits available halfway through is you can kind of think through it. But I'm not always the best at getting the patterns all done in time. So Joni was like, I can't find some of these quilts. I'm like, well, probably because I didn't get the pattern written near enough time. So that was fun. So year 2 came and went, and we're like, okay, this is becoming a thing, right? I guess we're gonna think
We're hooked,
We're
so, okay.
we're in it to win it. So the next year, we decided on 3 other colorways. So now we finally got our act together, and we know to talk to the reps well ahead of time and order it.
Yeah, we actually got to go, this was my first time, I got to go to market and help pick out the fabric, and that was so fun.
It was. And so, you're shopping around market, and then you're talking to the reps, and you're like, well, I'm gonna need like 1,000 yards of each of these. And they're like, what?
Okay, I'll take your second.
So we decided to do Allison Glass as one of the colorways that year. So this is our handiwork collection. So I thought, just kind of fun and bright. Now, what's great is when I pick out the fabrics, I love all these fabrics. But like by the time you work with them all year, you're just so over them.
Yeah,
But
you're done.
Allison Glass, that was definitely my favorite pick. So when I'm picking out the colorways, we have to think, what's this gonna look like in the actual quilt? It's not like, ooh, we're gonna pick 10 colors we like. It has to actually work. If you've ever bought fabric and then like try to make a quilt out of it, you're like, oh, it doesn't really work. So that was one of the colorways. Another colorway was Sugar Sugar, so it was like black and
Grays and yellows.
yellows. And then this collection is the collection that gave Joni the booty shake.
Yeah.
She was so, her eyes got so big.
Gotta look at the back first.
Wow.
Wasn't that amazing? We saw this at market, that's what you did? Okay. And I was like, okay, Angela, I have to have this, just let me have this. And she said, okay, what's gonna go with it? I said, I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out.
So we picked out, we picked this out, I'm like, okay, we can pull colors from that, and it was probably the hardest
It was
job
really hard.
we ever had. Loved this, and we wanted to stick with it, but then we ended up finding.
And this was during COVID, this was the COVID year. So I don't know why, I just loved this one so much.
So like this wasn't design based or collection based. Like these were all pulled from different things. And Joni has such an eye for pulling these together, and I loved it. But this quilt will forever in perpetuity remind me of the hell of COVID.
Yes.
So we sell 800 Build A Quilts.
Oh my.
Perfect. We buy the fabric. Well then, fabric wasn't shipping, containers weren't going. Oh, we were scrambling for every little scrap of fabric. It was
not.
So I'm glad that we can see this, but this will always remind me of.
We'd come in and work on it, so nobody was working except Angela and I, and we'd come in, no makeup, no anything, and we didn't even care, but we were working on this.
I'm like, okay, so what was funny is we bought regular width or extra wide, but basically we had to reformat the patterns to work with the extra wide fabric. And this was one of the only ones that got this on the backing, because we had to rob it from the backing to use for the quilt top.
That's right.
I'm writing patterns to use the extra white on the front because we couldn't get any. And this is a very distinctive fabric.
Oh,
wow.
So
if you've got one, you're
Yeah.
lucky.
and from time to time, every year, sometimes somebody will like, oh, I've been working on a previous year and I don't have that fabric, but if they show me that quilt, I'm like, we got nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. But this was a year that everything changed because I was like, we can't do that again. I cannot. It was so much time trying to figure out fabric, calling shops. I bought some of it at like retail. Like it worked out. But I said, you know what, I think maybe this next year I designed fabric for it. So we have a large format printer. I had already I'd already designed some fabric collections. So Joni had faith in me that we could figure this out. And then the next Build A Quilt, we had the first time where we had our own fabric. This was amazing.
Game changer.
Because
Completely.
we didn't have to worry about running out. I could produce more. So the first colorway we did was called
And we can't find quilts.
Yeah,
I don't know.
somewhere.
So anyway, it's kind of,
This is made out of it. But so basically, now I'm thinking, what do I want for colorways? And so I try to have a more, I don't want to say masculine or feminine, but more neutral. And then I try to have whatever. I just try to have a range. Because my thought is, if somebody doesn't like one color option, they can maybe do another. So this inked fabric collection was inspired by calligraphy. That was my COVID hobby that I picked up. And I do love me some teal and gray, let me tell you, that's my happy space. And so that was one of the colorways. Yeah. Then Joni said, sage is really popular right now. She's like, I really love that. So Stay Wild was the next. Now, these are only two left.
we can't find that quilt.
Imagine a beautiful quilt made out of this fabric, okay? It was stunning.
And another gray, some gray with it. Yeah.
And then the last one was Flag Day, so patriotic kind of red,
This
white,
was
and blue.
inspired by, we partnered with Quilts of Valor to do that. The backing on this is not what we had, but it was just, anyway, that was.
So you can see the individual blocks. One of the things I did not really think through is we decided to do 10 blocks because we needed off May for quilt market.
Right, and one to
And
regroup.
Room to regroup. Well, it's really hard to make a quilt with 10 blocks, just in case you're wondering. It's not easy. So sometimes we'll repeat a block or I'll have to come up. So that's been kind of a fun challenge. So this was one of the layouts. So that went over really well. About that time is when I realized, hey, if I'm designing the fabric, couldn't I just design a panel with all the pieces on it? And Joni's like, please. Because now, instead of having to cut 4 different fabrics, you can cut one panel out. So we're like, okay, that was really fun. So now we're getting into like Build A Quilt 5. And I'm like, every year, for the first few years, every year when we finish Build A Quilt, Joni would say, are we going to do it again? Are you fine? Because you don't have to if you don't want to. And I'm like, well, do you not want to? She's like, no, I mean, I will if you will. And I'm like, well, do you? So
Yeah, now we haven't even asked, we just, this is what it is.
So that just kind of stuck. Designing the collection so that I don't have to go through the craziness of trying to source them, and then it's just kind of fun.
And that's what makes them unique too, because, it's designed by,
Yeah, no one else can
everything's
get
designed
that
by
fabric.
you, all the quilting, everything's by you.
So this one was the next year's colorway. Okay, it's about this time that Build A Quilter started saying, why don't any of your layouts have borders? So I was like, fine, you want borders, we'll give you borders. So this was one of the colorways. So, some greens, some navies, some golds. And for those of you that hear
I
online,
used a different layout, but
Yeah,
I love
it's
that colorway.
different colorways.
what's fun is like, sometimes you say, oh yeah, I did that colorway. What's fun for me is when I'm designing the patterns, I'm just working within the computer program. I love seeing them out in public, or out actually finished, because it looks so different depending on the colorway. But that also means that we get to write 9 different patterns, right? 3 colorways per 3 fabric or layouts, but it's pretty fun. When I'm doing the layout design, or I'm trying to figure out the layouts, because usually I design the blocks, we get started, and then a couple months later I do that. I try to have an easier option, maybe an option that has a little bit more to it, and then maybe a smaller option. So this one was the big, easy option.
Great big.
Oh my God.
I love it.
Yep. I mean, big all half square triangles.
Was this the year we finally got extra lines?
I think so,
Yes.
yes.
So like now then, we're into getting extra lines for the backing. So you don't have to piece them now, so that was really good.
So Joni is like a hero. So now that I'm kind of on top of things, she's actually like making everyone. So at this point, we're getting our act together so we have more.
Yeah, we haven't lost any now.
And then for one of the colorways, we did a Christmas theme. So this was the Holly Jolly option. Now what's great about this is I don't personally love novelty fabric, so Joni really kind of will push me like, let's do a Christmas one, or let's do this. And so it's fun to work with that, and I'm so happy how it turned out.
Yeah.
And then the layout, isn't that cute? How it makes the little presents.
It's really cute.
Yeah. So same year, not more difficult, but just a little bit more intricate to it. So then I always ask Joni, I'm like, okay, what binding should we use? Like, but so it's a very much collaborative process. And then there was this one. This one was Luxe.
This one has been, after Build A Quilt is over, and after about the year after it's over, we sometimes we put together more kits and sell them in the shop or something. And this one has been in the shop for 3 years now, and people still love to buy it. So it's been the #1 seller ever for Angela. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
So it was about this year that people started asking for quilting diagrams. Now I haven't been able to do that every year, but I have tried. And so, when you have 10 different blocks, and if you are going to quilt your own, it's hard to know what to do. So this year, when we did it, I quilted it to take pictures for the diagrams. This is also my favorite color. I'm not huge into pink, but I love the soft pink with the gray.
Yep.
So that, that year, was we're like, okay, we finally got it all figured out. One of the things we did also, before when we'd have the other Build A Quilt, we would have or other fabric, we would do oops kits where you could buy a piece of the fabric. But that also was hard to do because you had all the pieces. So we were able to design the oops kit on a panel. So to be able to design these pieces of fabric, to have all the pieces that you need, has been a lot of fun. It cuts down on mistakes and makes it easier. All right. Now it's funny because you never know what's going to be popular. Usually, between the 3 options, there's the 2 that kind of are neck and neck, and then the outlier. But you just never know. This
Thanks
one
to Suzanne for bringing this. We couldn't find this one. So.
Yes. So this was the Westward colorway.
Wow. That's great.
I loved playing with some different frames around it, and again, 10 blocks. That's
It
always
was
some
so
fun.
much fun to make.
Oh, good. Good.
It really was.
You did a great job.
Thanks.
It's funny because sometimes I'll be writing a pattern and I'm like, cut 100 half-square triangles. I'm like, oh, sorry guys. Having Build A Quilt online and in person has been a lot of fun. We love meeting with our in-store builders, but we have Build A Quilters all across the world. We have overseas, Australia, Brazil, I can't even think of them all. And then of course, a lot in the US. So the most we've had is 1,000.
No, 1,200.
1,200.
COVID year.
Yeah, 1,200. That was a lot of cutting. Anyway, so that was one of the colorways. I always pick a colorway that's my favorite, and that one was my favorite. Look, this one was one of the other colorways. This was Abstractions.
Yes, this is my favorite too.
It's kind of hard because when I'm designing the patterns and the fabric, I also lay it out in a quilt. So I'm seeing what does this look like in a quilt. So it's kind of a dual process, designing the blocks and the patterns. And sometimes there's prints that I design that I love, but it's not working in the blocks. And that's the hardest part. In design, they call that killing your baby. When you have something that you love so much, but it's not working. And so sometimes I'll come and I'm like, Jessica, I gotta kill the baby.
Yeah, and we got a lot of don't make these things directional. That was something we have to deal with, because when you have direction, then it's harder, you can't do as much, or else you have to not care about it.
Yeah. And Joni cares about direction.
Well, because
So then finally, so Joni will say, we've never had purple. And I'm like, do we need it?
Because Angela doesn't love
I don't normally love purple, but we have petals and lace. And so I'm like, okay, if we're gonna do a purple, let's do a little bit of green in there. And I loved it. This is probably the first time I'm like, okay, I think I like it. I don't know why I didn't like purple before, but just, anyway. About this time, I realized, it's getting really hard to come up with 3 unique layouts every year. So now what we started incorporating was where I'll remix a previous layout as one of the options. Because not everybody does Build A Quilt every year, and not everybody uses the same layout. So this was a remix. of a previous year. But I still do 2 original ones. Oh, yeah, actually, we're gonna get them. So now, we're gonna come up to this year.
This past year.
Oh yeah, this last year.
We
Somebody-
didn't
I
get
get
this
them all
one
mixed
out.
up.
These were hanging in the shop and we didn't get this one down. So anyway, this was the colorway.
Yep, so again,
Okay.
just something that was a little more, with navies and darker, more saturated. Yep. This is actually the Oops kit that has a different fabrics on it. This is probably my favorite one, that little blue one there.
I love it.
That's cute.
I just see a little boy with a shirt.
Mm-hmm. So then, like, if I'm like, okay, I try not to have a lot of overlapping colors between the 3 colorways. I try not to make it similar to a Build A Quilt that we've had recently. And so this one, I love this one. So it's called Lazy
That's the
Days.
one I'm working on right now.
Lazy Days.
Wow.
Hey, and I actually made this one. Well, not all the blocks, because she
Most
made
of, she made half of the blocks.
and Joni did cut it out for me because I am spoiled, but I pieced it. So probably one of my favorite layouts that I've done. I think it's a lot of fun. It's like a blooming 9 patch, but with 4 patches, and it is so easy. Now there's a lot of 4 patches, but it's nice and easy. So I made this one at a weekend retreat. So if I'm ever in the room cutting fabric and Joni comes by, she's like, "Is everything okay? Do you need me to do something?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna make this." And then we had Scarlet Skies. They're like my children. I had too many, I can't remember their name. So this one had, some of the blues.
I don't know if we got the right.
We don't have the right way. That's all right. Big and easy, right? Like that's gonna be. So you can kind of start to see some of the blocks throughout here. When I'm designing the blocks, they've all up to this point been 12.5 inches. I try to make them easy but interesting. One of the great things about having Build A Quilt is we have a lot of different skill levels, and so we're trying to kind of hit all that. What I love is that Joni has such a passion for teaching piecing that it's a lot of fun. Now I brought some in progress. So one of the colorways we're doing this year, we decided to do pumpkin season. Again, I struggle with novelty fabric and I struggle with fall. So this was the colors we end up going with. You have to know that these colors caused me so much angst. These are like all the strike-offs, all the samples in different colors that were rejected. I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. Maybe brown, I don't know. And I was like, green. Like, so it was a lot to kind of come up with. Usually in my process, I'm coming up with a lot of designs and then I'll do a test print with all of the different ones and then I'll start cutting out the ones that don't work or the ones that do work. I say this with love. I was like, finally, I'm like, forget it. I'm picking 9 colors. I'm not gonna do this because nobody's gonna order the stupid colorway anyway. And it's our most popular, like 3 times over. So anyway,
She was cussing at me.
I was
I'm
just
not doing this.
I just couldn't get it to work because I had to make it work in a pattern too. Like I could have made 1,500 prints off of that, but I wanted it to look good. And so you have to know that, especially those of you that do Build A Quilt, like a lot of thought goes into the prints. Like how is this going to actually look? Because I want it to look good in the quilt too. The other colorway we did this year was Embellish. So some more of those golds, but with a little more taupe. All the colorways have 9 fabrics because that's what works out well for the Oops kit. That's the only reason. Awesome. Yeah. You might think there's some deep thing in there, but that's why. And so being able to have all the fabrics on an Oops kit, because I want it to like use it all. So anyway, then we did Bloom and Blush, which was my favorite one. I thought this would be the most popular, and it wasn't, but it's okay. But it's funny because the different collections I really start working on them the summer before Build A Quilt. So kind of working on the next one, and some of them come easily and some of them don't. It's kind of like any creative process, like making a quilt. You have those quilts that just seem to assemble themselves, and some that are a little bit more of a struggle. But I have enjoyed a lot making the fabrics and the patterns and working with Joni and seeing her make them. And then I'm really thankful for you handling all the customer service. Because those of you that are in Build A Quilt know when I say, if you have a question, feel free to email Joni. So anyway, that's kind of fun to show you a little process. Every once in a while, I love to stop and kind of look back. Like, we used to meet in the shop. Our first meetings were in the quilt shop in a room that was about this big. Right, and we would be like this, teaching, and there are people right there, and you're like, okay, just climb over the chairs, get like, yeah, oh, it was so
Standing
bad.
room only. It was,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
standing room
Yes.
only, and then we finally had this new event center, and so that was a big deal to get to move away from the shop, so it's evolved over the years. And for those of you that were there at the beginning, and for those of you who are there now, I just look forward to seeing it evolve even more. So anyway, thank you so much. For our online people watching, we appreciate you looking again. It's just a fun little show and tell to show you a little bit of a different facet of our business. So we will let you guys go and have a great rest of your night.